we are the loyal sons. We'll get them on the run, boys. We got them on the run. Yes, we are the loyal sons. We'll get them on the run, boys. We got them on the run.
Well, hello and welcome to a victory edition of the HLS podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Ritter. You can call me ND Tex. And as always, you can catch us here live, including after the game is over on occasion, here on twitch.tv/herloyalsons. You can subscribe to the podcast over on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you find your podcast at. Join us in Discord. That is our live chat channel, herloyalsons.com/Discord. Of course, you can always find us at our home at herloyalsons.com. And with that, I bring in Shane. Shane, how you feeling after this late Monday night?
Like I need to shower again, honestly. I mean, I know I shouldn't, given the actual result, the actual margin of victory, but it's just like, I don't know. Did anyone enjoy that? I don't think anyone really did. It's been rough.
Yeah, it was week one sloppiness is going to be a theme, I feel, throughout this show. And of course, for those of you that haven't caught the way we do recap shows, of course, we will get to the Notre Dame game and discuss it at length. We also like to take a look around at the rest of college football as well, because there is sometimes far more interesting shit happening around the world of college football as opposed to just Notre Dame. And this week with week one, there was some interesting stuff that happened, to say the least.
Yeah, I think the SEC has a lot to say about that.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and hop right into it because it is a late night. We eventually got to go to sleep. So we'll go ahead and kick it off with the headliner here. Oregon and Auburn. Auburn pulls this out, and I mean pulls it out. 27-21 is your final in this one. I mean, Oregon came out to the point where I even said on Twitter, I really want to change my pick for the Pac-12. Because holy crap, did they look good when they first came out, and they really pissed the game away.
Yeah, Oregon kind of like was pushing Auburn around for 3 solid quarters. Mm-hmm. They were just outpacing them, outmuscling them. Their offensive line was kind of it was a non-match even against Auburn's stout defensive line. And then in the fourth quarter, it's kind of like Oregon just didn't know how to maintain that lead. They didn't know how to put points on the board when they had their last opportunity. And for some reason, their defense stopped showing up on that final drive.
Yeah, and you have a true freshman, a quarterback that was playing like a true freshman, and then for one brief moment decided he was not going to play like a true freshman on that final drive. I've seen this Bo Knows 2.0 coming on with Bo Nix coming out there. I don't want to take anything away from him. He played well. I'm obviously happy with the result. I didn't think it was going to turn out as good as it did for Auburn, but man, not exactly a ringing endorsement of Mario Cristobal and game management, to say the least, because I mean, Justin Herbert, he had a good game, but he saw a little bit of pressure, then became a little bit erratic, made a few bad throws, and all of a sudden, 14-0 is your score in the fourth quarter. Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, just overall, yeah. It was not a ringing endorsement for Mario Cristobal, but really, it just kind of looked like Justin Herbert, for all of his accolades and his senior status, just kind of like was too caught up in the moment. He saw an opportunity to put the game away and kind of got jittery from then on out when that wasn't achieved.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
He missed it. Everything kind of fell apart from there, and then the defense, of course, didn't do him any favors. But yeah, I mean, good on Auburn. This whole Bo thing with Auburn, and let's just really pump them brakes. But I mean, clearly Bo Nix is going to be somewhat of what the quarterback he was touted as coming in as a freshman. But so far, the legend begins.
Yeah, and Auburn for a while they've needed solid quarterback play. They've had good defense, even though the defense was on its heels. They rebounded. So it has been. Do they have a quarterback? And at least for one game, they might. So we'll see what happens down the road. I'm still skeptical because Auburn has burned me one too many times in the past to get overly excited. But it's a good thing Auburn did win this game because, especially for the bottom half of the SEC, it was a little rough. Let's go ahead and talk about that little rough. That's Georgia State. Yes, Georgia State taking out Tennessee 38-30. The Sun Belt becoming the Fun Belt here. And, I mean, really, I watched the end of this game, like the majority of the fourth quarter, when I realized it was going south for Tennessee. And Georgia State, like, they just had their damn number. It was insane.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many things that don't look good in the history book here. I mean, Georgia State's a 10-year-old football program, first and foremost, 10 years old, and had never beaten a Division I opponent, like never. And then Tennessee, this is what they were. They had won 30 straight when they were favored by 15 or more, and then
this happened.
Defense appeared. Can we talk about how bad this Tennessee defense looked? I mean, I didn't realize. I mean, I understand when you're looking at Tennessee, this is an SEC team. I recognize that checkerboard end zone anywhere, but like I constantly had to be reminded that this wasn't like Chattanooga or something, because the defense looked bad.
They looked really, really bad. The touchdowns at the end that Georgia State were scoring were like strolls into the end zone.
At will, untouched. They were gashing them. I mean, this is a team that was 2-10 a year ago. And I understand this is some growing pains and all that at Tennessee, but I mean, this is not a growing pain situation. It feels like a little bit more like they didn't realize the season was that day. Like they just thought it was, oh shit, like, oh crap, here we are. I don't know.
Gentlemen.
Oh yes, hey there, Woj. Thank you for the cheer. Welcome aboard this late night. Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Tennessee right now. Besides that, everything seems completely broken there, including the fan base. Because if you want to take a look at some sad fans, go find yourself a replay of this game. Because holy crap, everybody just looked depleted. Barnett had 95 rushing yards in this game. Against you couldn't have. I wouldn't have been able to pick him out of a lineup.
I still can't. You just gave me his name.
Yeah, just absolutely incredible that Tennessee is coughing that up. And in the fourth quarter, I always love when scores go completely wonky because Georgia State scored a touchdown every quarter, and then in the fourth they scored 17 points. So it's not like Tennessee, just kind of were slowly cracking and they just couldn't, rebound and come back together. No, they just full out shat themselves in the fourth quarter, and it went awful. And man, I tell you what, this one was severely disappointing. I was hoping Kelly Bryant was going to do some great things. Instead, his first start is dropping one on the road to Wyoming, 37-31 your final. And that's the storyline. Kelly Bryant looked really awful. He looked bad.
Yeah. I mean, he looked terrible. Missouri's defense looked terrible. And with Wyoming's defense looked incredible. I mean, let's be real. They had Kelly Bryant off from jump. I mean, they had his number. They had him keyed. I don't know what it was, but this dude, he looked. It's kind of, you kind of look at the Clemson ring situation. You're just kind of like,
Yeah, it was a mess, and I mean, Wyoming's flushing him out of the pocket. Bryant's making awful reads. I mean, flat out didn't see some defenders. So I mean, we're going to talk about Ian Book and his quarterback play here in a second. For if you were frustrated with what he did, and I definitely am. Boy, I need to take a look at this because this is just completely shitting the bed here. I expected a hell of a lot more out of Bryant than what we got in this game, to say the least. Yep. Yeah, it was just absolutely awful. All right, let's go ahead and move on now. In this one, Memphis beats Ole Miss 15-10. Now, this isn't really an upset in the Vegas terms because Memphis was actually the favorite team and at home. But the bigger thing here is that Ole Miss just couldn't put anything together. I mean, they just looked, again, this is a team where the current Michigan quarterback couldn't crack the starting lineup and transferred over.
Yep.
That keeps sitting in my mind. Just absolutely awful. But yeah.
Is it time to call it on the Rich Rod offense? I mean, where has it worked? I mean, since West Virginia,
that was about it.
This Ole Miss team just kind of, I mean, they didn't even look like they were interested. I mean, I knew you could tell they were trying, but it almost felt like they knew it wasn't going to work.
Right.
You know,
There seemed to be no confidence whatsoever as they progressed through this game, and Memphis, they just basically they got the lead and sat on it after that.
Yep.
All
pretty
right.
much.
Now Friday night football got weird. We're gonna move on. The Mountain West, man, did they have a little bit of fun? Nevada knocking off Purdue, 34-31. And one of the crazier parts about this game was that Nevada had to kick a 50-plus yard field goal, but they had to kick it because the referees decided to throw unsportsmanlike conduct celebration penalties at the drop of a hat.
Yep.
You could show no emotion.
Just, hey man, I saw him thinking something. He thought something.
Yeah,
I like it.
It was god awful, but awesome to see this happening. The kicker, who is a true freshman, he was a walk-on. He is now on scholarship after this game.
You know when he was notified he was kicking? On Friday.
Right. And now all of a sudden,
yeah, and this
you're
dude
a hero.
nails a 56-yarder, an NFL quality kick in the only moment he needs it, and this dude's got a scholarship.
Oh, and he drilled it too. That would have been good from 60. He knocked the living piss out of that football. But man, not a great start right now for Purdue, and Jeff Brom. It was interesting. I still like him as a coach. I still think he's a really good coach. I still think Purdue's going to be a fun team to watch. But it's interesting to start to see some of the teeth come out, because there was a lot of tweets flying out about his record against anybody decent, and then getting upset as well. So that's some weird discomfort, because this is only year 2 of Brom, if I remember right?
Yeah, this is only the second year, and I mean, he doesn't exactly. I mean, this is Purdue. They often either rely on at least a strong enough defense or good quarterback play. They often somehow manage to create one or the other, and frankly, right now they don't kind of have either. I know that. Elijah Sindelar is likely to grow into a decent quarterback, but right now it just kind of feels like Jeff Brom is kind of like learning as he goes. Maybe not him, but the team. He's trying to identify still who the guys are. Yeah,
and Sindelar, I mean, he had a great game. 34 for 52, 423 yards and 4 touchdowns. Right. So I mean, look, he gave an effort there. The defense didn't hold up. They're into the bargain, and Nevada 17 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Yeah, that'll be a recipe for disaster there. Now, I enjoyed this next one immensely.
Hell yes.
Boise State knocks off Florida State at home, 36-31. And the reason I enjoyed this so much was because at the beginning, Florida State, I mean, come out, lit on fire. People are praising, hired Kendall Briles. Man, now FSU's fun again. What a great hire. Like, yeah, are we really going to start singing Briles praises now? And then all of a sudden, once we get to the second half, the fun stopped completely for Florida State. The offense stopped. They had 8 yards, I think, in the fourth quarter at one point, gained. And we're like at the end of the fourth quarter here. Boise State runs over 100 plays in this game.
Yep.
Just absolutely taking it to them. And this was an absolute collapse here by Florida State. They at the end of the first quarter, it was 21-6. I mean, it looked like they were going to run away from this. Even at the half, it was 31-19. Yeah. And they let them all the way back. And I tell you what, Hank Bachmeier, that freshman is going to be a damn problem for anybody that faces him.
Yeah. I think if this is his starting point, this team, this Boise State team could come back to achieve Murder Smurf status. It's very, very possible. Now, I do want to say that so far, to my understanding, Florida State is the only Florida team to be defeated by a hurricane this weekend. And I just really want to make sure we emphasize that point, okay? Because I'm going to enjoy that immensely. A blue hurricane, nonetheless. But yeah, no, Boise State, it was amazing because Florida State dominated them for essentially the first half. They were averaging. I mean, they had over 15-yard average on other run plays, and then basically it just kind of shifted. You could see one team that happened to condition themselves in actually dark, humid rooms slowly gain more confidence, where the team that actually lives in such an environment slowly lost their confidence. And then after that, I mean, it was just kind of a wrap. Once Boise State had achieved enough of a rhythm to make it a close game and bring it within a touchdown, it kind of seemed like Florida State assumed it was over. Not that they did, but their play got sloppy after that. Their defense became frantic, and Justin Blackman didn't. He just didn't deliver down the stretch. Quite frankly, his passes were a little bit sloppier. He had one big incompletion that almost cost him a touchdown. Ended up costing them a touchdown. But Murder Smurf's back. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, Murder Smurf is back. And the reason I like Bachmeier so much, wasn't just that he had a good game here, 30 for 51, 407 yards and a touchdown. It's just he kept taking licks. He was not afraid to climb into the pocket. It's something I wish a certain quarterback at Notre Dame would have had a little bit more gumption on. But yeah, that he would just step up, make clutch throws, and even if he got rocked and made a bad throw, he just short memory, and that's a hell of a lot of maturity for a true freshman starter. So man, this is the kind of Boise team that's scary as hell. This is really the kind of Boise team that's scary as hell.
Shades of Kellen Moore, right? That first start he had, you knew.
Exactly. And I have a feeling, now again, we don't know what Florida State is, so it's hard to make that determination right now, but I definitely liked what I saw from Bachmeier there. All right, we got a couple more games before we get into Notre Dame. We're going to briefly talk about a couple future Notre Dame opponents. We're not going to talk much about Stanford and Northwestern, 17-7, because it was god-awful and ugly, but what we are going to say is KJ Costello got his bell rung. As he was sliding, took a forearm straight to the dome, and I mean, it just looked straight up like Northwestern was headhunting. It looked that bad in full speed. And he did not return to the game. Shaw, at least when I was checking and up on notes in the middle of our own game for this, but I haven't seen any update on him. I would assume he's able to come back. Maybe has to take a week off because he's got a concussion. There's no way around it.
Pretty clearly had, kind of like just an interruption in general, like awareness of a situation. He had that whole, a slight like wobble when he's getting back up.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the drawn out, I guess protocol testing after testing. Once it goes past that first or second test, you can pretty much assume it's serious enough that they think another round of testing is necessary.
Yeah,
kind of how it felt. Pretty much like after that first 5 minutes of him being out. But it resulted in pretty much the most boring game of the week. I mean, this shit was pretty unwatchable after that. I mean, Northwestern, I don't even know what you are.
Yeah, they are somebody that gave me. Thank you for the sub there, Maverick. Appreciate it. The only thing to mention, this was an epic bad beat that I was on the wrong side of. Northwestern had this game covered, and at the tail end, I mean, they don't have to do anything. They were just I was expecting them to run the ball into a cloud of dust. I knew they were going to try to score and everything, but I wasn't expecting it to go anywhere. No, we fumble, scoop and score. All of a sudden, Stanford covers, and I'm just like, okay, thanks, assholes.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, you know what? All right, I see what you're doing. That was on purpose. I'll remember that.
Exactly. All right, we're going to talk a little Southern Cal Fresno State. We nearly had full Pac-12 after dark here. Fresno never could really put it together. But the storyline from this one, JT Daniels out for the season with a knee injury. And as soon as he went down, you're like, yep, that's an ACL. He's done so. As soon as he went down, he's grabbing his knee. And there was a lot of weird commentary in general from ESPN. They didn't really seem to be on the ball that this guy was like seriously hurt.
No, they just said, looks like he's down. He's holding on to his lower leg. Hey, so let's talk about that other thing we were talking about earlier. And it's just like, it looks like the medical staff. But yeah, it was pretty crazy, that other thing we were talking about earlier, right? Like they weren't paying attention. And then by about that second minute, when like they're calling over the people, like, come over, bring the air cast, they were like, oh, he's hurt.
Yeah, they're having to cart him off the field. Something's wrong here. This game also featured Rod Gilmore not being able to know how to spell fight, so that was interesting. So we got the Fig Thing Irish, and we have Fit on.
Fit on.
That was probably the most sustained storyline throughout the entire game, was them talking about the students and the G that decided to go to the bathroom in the middle of that.
Yeah, they were like, if you're the G, you don't get to go anywhere, bro. Like, you soldier that shit out. It's like, yeah, but I mean, like, what if he's got like a bladder infection, or what if he's got like, like a situation? Maybe he's got prostate cancer. You have to soldier that shit out. I don't give a shit. Why'd you go to the game? Something like, okay, relax, dude.
Yeah, it was funny to see Rod Gilmore get really passionate about that. Like, no, you can't leave. Rod Gilmore doesn't like anything. I swear, he wants to go down such a straight and narrow path. Like, it was an obvious Fresno's got to go for it on fourth down, or they're not going to come back. No, I don't agree with this call at all. I mean, it was so classic Rod Gilmore right out of the box, right off the bat there. Oh God, incredible. Okay, well, it's that time. It is time to talk a little bit of Notre Dame. We're going to talk about Louisville. We're going to talk week one. It will take up the majority of the show here. But first, we are going to take care of some podcast business. And folks, it's the point in time where we are going to insert the ad for the podcast side, for the Twitch side. Thank you very much for the follow, Ryan. And this is for to remind y'all that you can do the cheers like Woj did in there to interject himself. Of course, we those pennies do go and support us, as do your subs, and spread the word, keep following, all that kind of good stuff. And we're gonna get right back into it. I hope everybody's ready for this discussion. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about it. Notre Dame 35, Louisville 17. And it was a week one slot fest, to say the least. I think
it was on theme.
It was very on theme.
It showed up dressed exactly as expected for the party.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mess. And I think, at least for me, Shane, the biggest takeaway overall was really that Ian Book did not look like the Ian Book we expected. And really, even when he had some flashes, it wasn't a sustained... Ian Book being that super accurate passer, always making the right reads. But he had some happy feet going on today.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It felt almost too obviously like Book was trying to make a point about how he could run it. Like, even when the throws were there, he was avoiding, like he was leaving the pocket. He wasn't like escaping it or like managing. He was specifically trying to abandon it. Mm-hmm. For the first opportunity he saw. I mean, he got caught looking a couple times, staring down option number one because he wasn't even interested in options 2, 3, or 4. He was just gonna run, and that made it evident because the entire picture of the offense seemed to not follow along with him.
Yeah, and we already got people, saying it's like no pocket presence. Is this year 2 QB regression under BK? Yeah, that's not going to quell this narrative at all, to say the least.
No, it's fair.
He didn't even crack 200 yards in passing. He was the leading passer in this game at 193 yards. Now, he didn't throw a pick, which was good, but watching him fail to climb the pocket and just not rush or even he didn't want to take any hits, like, at all.
Right.
Like he didn't want to step up and take a hit at all. It was very weird to see that lack of pocket presence in there. And one of the things that jumped out is when Notre Dame started to sputter after their first scoring drive. Louisville rushed 3, and Book panicked and took off. I'm like, what are you doing? There's 8 people down there. Just let your guys run around for a little while. Somebody's going to get open. Your offensive line should be able to block 3 people, and he was not even remotely under pressure at that point. And when I saw that, I'm like, that's okay. And even the first big play of the game where he took off, I wonder if that got in his head. It's like, oh, I can score, I get lots of yards here all by myself.
Like it, right? After that very first play, he breaks off that like 12 or 15 yarder, and he's like, I've got it. This will do nicely. And it's like, I mean, the running game was obviously the weapon of choice. Like, if you really wanted to manage this game to a guaranteed success, it was exposed early enough that Absolutely. It was the run game. Not in the first drive because they didn't try hard enough on the first drive, but by the second drive, it was evident. And yet, he seemed to feel the need to be the running game. Like that. I made the comment early in the game that Brian Kelly called the both of them over right after Jafar Armstrong went out with his groin injury and looked directly at Book and at Tony Jones Jr. and pointed at both of them and said, do we have a fucking problem here? Like, it was visibly, it was plain as day in like the second quarter, or the first quarter, he said it to them. Because it just seemed like they weren't on the same page about who's taking the handoffs and what the reads are. And it seemed like Book just kept trying to keep it. Honestly, I felt like he was playing with a red jersey on still.
Yeah, it was, and the sloppiness. It's almost like BK and Chip Long were trying to play call Book out of it, because even though it was extremely obvious that we can just run them over, it's an absolute mismatch in the trenches right now. Let's just go ahead and start bowling them over.
Yep.
Pass after pass after pass was called, and you're just sitting here scratching your head like, but why? Why are we doing this?
Trying to force him out of it. Yep.
Exactly. It's like, so we're that determined to make sure that he gets out of this funk, which, okay, I kind of understand. But, I mean, they were so stubborn to the point where I almost respected. And the reason I said that is because they're like, Louisville ain't going to fucking win. You keep passing the ball until you figure this shit out, because this is like live practice right now, son.
Yeah. I think they had that, like, this shit is not going to get us Georgia. So work on it right now. Get it done. I don't give a shit if we win by 3 fucking points. You get that shit done. You could tell that they were just like, we need to remind everyone. It's like, we have Claypool. I understand. Like, you now have Tremble, evidently. At least that became a thing. But it just felt like the problem started and ended with Book, if we're being honest.
It did. And even, I mean, he had a little bit of ball security issues a couple different times, one of which was running literally right into, and again, it's running and then like running with his head cut off, going straight into one of his guys and fumbling the football. He had another fumble before that thankfully was recovered by the Irish, and lots of weird stuff going on. Like, not that I have a problem with Jameer Smith, but he got his number called a bunch at the beginning of the game, and Tony Jones just looked like he wanted to run through somebody and disembowel them. I mean, he was coming out on absolute fire. It's like, why don't we hand the ball off to him a little bit more often?
Yeah, I think they were trying to keep the same balance that they were going to look for if they had Jafar with Tony and Jameer. And I think Jameer more than proved that he deserved it. I mean, he scored twice. But, I mean, I think it just felt like there were at times where the exchange was off. And I suspect that it was that had some part to do with it. In that, like, Brian Kelly's bringing in Jameer. Jameer's just going to do the exact thing he's told and not be expected to be reading shit. He's just going to fake it or take it, period. Mm-hmm. Whereas Jones and Book might have had those, the option exchanges for Book to make decisions, and things were just kind of off. Maybe Jones's thirst drove that because, both of them kind of wanted to get the ball more. But it just felt like everything was not going, like, not everybody was together on the same page.
Yeah, I think not on the same page sums up, especially in the first half, because we should talk about the defense as well. I'm sure we'll get back to harping on the offense again, because it looked like ghosts of BVG decided to come over from Louisville sideline. It's like, I'm gone here. Let me go haunt you for a little bit, because the linebackers were scary and a problem, and it was basic stuff. And we're talking assignments completely failed repeatedly. Yeah. Gigantic open lanes throughout. It was like they had never seen any remotely option offense before, because nobody was around. Nobody was setting an edge. Nobody was staying on their assignments. There was over pursuit. There was lack of pursuit. You name it, they did it.
Yeah, my biggest thing was the defensive fucking line. Like, I am a true believer that all of these guys are going to eat. They're going to eat a fuck ton this season. I believe it. But they all wanted to try to beat the fucking timing, and they kept outrunning their guy. I mean, they kept over pursuing, and it was 3 in a row. It was 1 for each. It was Okwara, then it was Kareem, then it was Ogundeji. They all did the exact same shit. They all jumped off sides, and then a drive later, they missed a tackle because they ran past their fucking dude. And it was just like, guys, like, we believe you can beat those O-linemen. We believe that shit. Like, we understand that. We think you do too. Just do that. Like, don't try to outrun them, because that's when you get BVG level shit. You lose contain. You don't have your linebackers in position because they're all starting in new positions. And Jeremiah Owusu-Koromora is busy just trying to murder somebody. Whatever the location, he's running at full speed at them. So it's just like, there have to be people that are sound, and praise the Lord Jesus Christ above for Drew White. That kid, holy shit. I'm impressed.
I was impressed too. He played it. We got to get him in the sim roster because
Yes,
that
we
was
do.
clearly. It was funny. Somebody actually was like, "This game's going way too close to the sim for my liking," and then that's what it was. It was linebackers not tackling properly at all, except Drew White able to lock it down, and eventually, Clark Lee did make whatever adjustments needed to be made. They were made, which I think the adjustment was, "Hey guys, can you fucking do your job and we'll be fine."
Yeah, remember that thing we did last week? Do that.
Yeah, and Kyle Hamilton got a ton of playing time.
Oh, whew, man. Okay. That kid is incredible. I'm sorry. I know he only played a little bit, but every time he appeared near the ball, it wasn't like, oh, look at the freshman go. It was like, Jesus Christ, look at this guy.
Even Herb Street was gushing over him.
Yep. That kid, I cannot wait, like, this time a year from now, how fucking spoiled we're all going to be by then, because this kid's amazing.
Yeah, and it was very clear that the coaching staff is looking for ways to get him on the field. He was playing a lot of nickel. He was almost like a third safety in nickel packages. They brought him in almost seeming like to calm everybody down and to actually start doing assignment football again.
Yeah.
He is basically a plug and you go fix this shit. Go fix this shit.
Yeah.
It's basically like what Jalen Smith was in the awful BVG days, covering for everybody's ass is what it felt like at one point.
Yeah.
And man, he did a great job. On the one fumble recovery that we had, he was right. He was nosing around right there with a low. He poked it out.
Yeah, I mean, his second pass breakup, I mean, he draped over the guy, broke up the pass, finished the tackle by taking the defender down, and before finishing the tackle, put his hand in mid tackle on his shoulder to make sure he got off on balance. Like, the kid's center of gravity and his reaction time. It's really weird to see because he's just a freshman. He looks like he just transferred in. You know what I mean? From some other major program where he graduated 4 years ago.
Absolutely.
He's just been traveling the world for shits and giggles. I don't know. I'm impressed. I know we're all drooly fanboying, but I genuinely think a year from now, we're all going to be like, hey man, remember that other Kyle Hamilton thing? Yeah, remember that other Kyle Hamilton shit that happened? Remember the bowl game when Kyle Hamilton X, Y, or Z? I think that's going to be real shit.
Yeah, and I know there's been a couple, it's like, oh, we're going to get murdered by Georgia in the chat, which, yeah, if we play like this, absolutely. But I tell you what, because the odds of winning that game were never good before we saw a single snap happening. But I tell you what, having somebody like Kyle Hamilton on the defensive side and him being able to have a nose for the football, that's the kind of thing you need to pull off a rough upset on the road, because the offense doesn't seem to be putting up their end of the bargain right now. So you're definitely going to have to create turnovers. And the defense, I mean, they stepped up. Alohi Gilman, when the wheels are coming off, pokes out a fumble. Sean Crawford, it ended up not being a fumble, but the dude's like diving in an open field tackle, and somehow you called it like just a bullseye targeting punch.
It's a bullseye ball punch. Just as in the middle of the tackle, he's just like, oh shit, pop, and just nailed it perfectly. I was like, man, this kid, and he got that one tackle. It was an incompletion, but he hit a dude so hard that the dude just walked off to the sideline. Like, I'm sorry, that hurt. He's back. Like, he looks like he's back, and I couldn't be happy.
Yeah, and he also had one where all the assignments were falling apart, and it was another play. The edge was not set, and he jumped and basically nipped right at Pass's heels and brought him down. Yep. That had 30 to 40 yards written all over it, and he saved everybody's ass on that play as well. So a healthy Sean Crawford is very good. Kyle Hamilton playing out of his mind. We're actually not really playing out of his mind, just existing and being Kyle Hamilton.
Like, hey guys, here to the fuck I am. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of things to be happy about, but I am worried about the D-line play overall, and not just for what we were talking about earlier, where they were being over-aggressive, they were running past everything, but man, jumping offside continuously. Like, look, you're good enough to beat Louisville's shitty offensive line. Like, sorry, this is a mismatch. It's 100% a mismatch. So I know I'm dogging on Louisville here, but it's a full mismatch. You don't need to sit here and think you got to jump every snap to have a shot at a play. And that just goes to the root of the problem. They're not being patient enough. They're not doing their job. Julian Okwara is trying to break the damn sack record in one game. It's not going to happen. So, man, that needs to get cleaned up, because a lot of those first two scoring drives, there were two at each one, there was a back-breaking 3rd and long offside that made it 3rd and manageable, and then all of a sudden, there it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect they will fix that because it was the first game, and you can tell the defensive line has the let's literally go hunt some people mentality. I'm not surprised they were anxious and jittery, but you have to imagine that like they are going to get obliterated for that this week in the film room,
Big time,
and in practice. They're gonna be those those fake whistle, real whistle drills, which is the real one, and then they can react to the right one and shit. Like I don't give a fuck what they got to do, but that needs to be under control. And again, the over pursuit. Oh, God, I mean, it was just because that was Okwara's problem. On what, like 7-8 sacks was over pursuit.
Yes.
Like just to see other players, it kind of become a theme on that line. It's just like, God, I respect the hustle, but guys, get your shit together.
Yeah, and you're hoping a lot of this, especially with the defense that seemed to be week one sloppiness because they did clean it up. They were able to get their shit together, and really from about like mid second quarter onward was a little bit more of what we expected. Yes, they still let some more big plays in. There's still some questionable stuff at linebacker. But the pass rush was somewhat there. Clark Lee, I think, was extremely aggressive in the blitzing to where half of Notre Dame Twitter was begging at the same time to stop blitzing.
Yeah, it wasn't working.
Yeah, and look, obviously you're on the road, your first game out of the gate, but there's only so much excuse you can make for that. Because at the end of the day, you have to execute. You have to start showing up. You got to start doing your damn job and not just make great plays. You don't have to be Alohi Gilman, making a clutch strip fumble and recovery, but you need to be able to just stay in your damn gap. So you're forcing somebody to go the other direction. There was like one play that took till the third quarter where they defended a speed option by hitting the quarterback and then hitting the pitch man.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. That's how it's supposed to be done.
It was one or the other. Yep. It didn't matter.
Yeah, and somebody's like, popped in my mentions, I'm now terrified for Navy. I'm like, I was about to tweet that. Because if you can't play basic assignment football, yeah, that shit's going to come bite you in the ass.
Gonna get hurt, yep.
And, even against other teams like freaking New Mexico, it'll be the same damn thing. If you don't play, even if it's an inferior team, if you don't play your fundamentals, it's going to be a disaster.
I think a fair question would be to ask, like, after this game, right? If you take whatever your preseason prediction was for the win-loss total, right? Does this change that 0 games? Does this add a game? Does this drop a game? Does this drop 2 games in terms of wins for you? This result? No,
this result doesn't change anything because I still think it's 10-2. And Georgia is in that too, and I don't know where the other one's going to come from. It's either going to be a dumb game or it's going to be the ones we are eyeing, Michigan or Stanford. So that's the invisible beverage. Yeah, apparently my green screen my chroma key is filtering out my water cup, so it's water. Last night was a little rough. Anyways, but all right, so let's flip back to the offense because we got to talk a little bit more about Book. Eddie is in our chat. He brings up a good point. Because he's like, is he possibly broken in the dome right now and becoming a bit of a head case because he played this same type of football against Clemson. Happy feet, inaccurate, so is that a concern?
I guess I hadn't connected the two as a pattern. I remember him being a lot more scramble happy. I just assumed, or not assumed, but I kind of still credit that to the fact that Clemson's defensive line is terrifying and ready to murder you at a moment's notice and can get to you quickly. I just felt like that time it might have been more necessary and slash appropriate to be a little bit more ready to take the fuck off because you might genuinely not have time to get a ball off. I just feel like this time it was obvious he insisted. Like it never felt that necessary. There were maybe 2 sacks that was like, yeah, okay, you were going to get got. But other times when he flushed himself out or when he pushed the ball, to the sidelines, it felt deliberately unnecessary and he just wanted to do it. because he didn't have a chance to run. He may be broken in the head. I don't really know what that is because I remember, you see the highlights from practice, you hear the feedback, the one major open practice, everybody on the beat kind of agreed, Book was wheeling and dealing. He was like 37 for 41 that one day.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it just felt like this particular game, he maybe had an agenda of his own in mind and was just trying to force it in there. I can't speculate beyond that. I can't even speculate to that level. It just that's what it looked like. He may be broken in the brain, or he may just be trying shit out out of confidence, because we know he's a very confident guy.
Yeah, it to me, at least with this game, it had the feeling of he was pressing big time. Pressing way too hard, to the point to where, if we're talking about sideline banter, there was one time where Kelly took a timeout, and you could see, like, Ian, you couldn't see his face, but you could see the head motion, like he was exasperated because Kelly is going, it was like, what are you doing out there? Like, nobody's lined up right. People are like, you could tell that everything pre-snap was an absolute disaster. And he definitely, I think, tunnel visioned in. There was one play in particular where he had a blitz that was coming from the slot side, and he had two receivers out there. And, I mean, I can see it. It's going to be wide open. And then on the replay, you also see that the tight end leaks out. Like, one of the reasons they went to Book was because he was able to do that pre-snap read very well. He was able to see where the pressure was coming from. He didn't have those, you didn't have the concerns that he was going to misread something to that level. And he didn't even look in that direction. Like, as soon as the ball was snapped, heads this way.
Yeah.
Now guys blindsiding him all of a sudden. And
last season, he had somewhat of a habit of doing that, where he would lock in on number one, and then he would then have to progress through. But yeah, this particular time, it was obvious. He had his tight end and his receiver streaking down, and he completely missed that.
Yeah, and it would have been an easy 10-yard plus gain because there was just nobody home there. And really, there was a lot of times where there was only a couple times where it seemed like the blitz, he was picking it up right and going to the correct hot read. Because, it's, being pointed out in the chant here is like, yeah, it was first-year starter stuff. First read's not there. Oh, shit, run. And that's really what it felt like, a lot of it. Now, as far as if he's going to be a head case, man, I don't know. It's a little bit too soon to say that.
Yeah, I kind of had a moment of panic when I saw him have that exasperated, like, oh, my fucking God. Almost I was worried like he was giving BK that. But I think he was just giving the situation that. Because I don't think I see in Ian Book like any diva-ish mentality.
No.
I don't really see that being possible,
Yeah, and especially from all the interactions and from that the beat has with his teammates, the fact that the quarterback transition last season went as well as it does also speaks to him not having that kind of mentality. It really had the feeling of he was just pushing. He didn't quite have it. He was having a bad game, and he let it spiral out of control. It's that pitcher that's up on the mound. He walks a guy, and then all of a sudden, he was maybe this far off the plate. Just missed the pitch just barely, and then all of a sudden the guy can't find the strike zone. That's just what it felt like, because even when he started, getting a little bit more in rhythm, I mean, balls were behind. He wasn't hitting people in stride. Keys had a nice little catch where he had showed some nice hands of body control, jumping in midair, get a ball behind him. But yeah, this. I'm hoping this is just shake out the cobwebs, shaking off the rust, because now you're actually facing an opposing team and not just the scout team.
Right. I mean, that's the hope. It is, I guess, of note that, you're starting on the road at a school with like a whole new situation on hand. Students are going to be understandably excited, especially when they see them achieve some success, whether that be at home, on the road, what have you. But I think you have to account for you have to be able to control what you're expected to do.
Right. Yeah, and it's not what was expected, especially when all your tough games are on the road. You're against Louisville. You're against an inferior opponent. You're supposed to be a little bit more of a calming presence, not the presence of your coaching's call timeout and calm you down and talk to you. And basically it's like, okay, what the hell are you seeing out there? What are you doing? That's where I'm more concerned. You're saying we're where do we stick? Does this game change anything for me? That's where I get a little bit more concerned that something could really kind of go off the rails, because it's going to be in, some other game, a game where you're not supposed to lose. You come back and you're playing Virginia after a tough game. Do you then, mentally have a huge game-long brain fart that you can never recover from? Because there is nobody else behind him that's ready. Dracovic, he's good, but he ain't ready yet. It's been abundantly clear that he still needs some time to cook in that oven. So I do not want him rolling out unless it is in garbage time for him to get some reps in. And God, every time Book is putting his shoulder down and not sliding, I'm like,
man. I was gonna say, now the injury situation just feels a lot more like, fuck. Okay, please none, thank you.
Right, and that scares me more than anything else as far as looking forward and projecting into the season, is that I know there's no safety net now. If Book goes down, or if, God forbid, Book just, let's say the worst case scenario happens and the year 2 QB BK thing takes the biggest nosedive ever. If that were to happen, and then all of a sudden BK's got to look at the sidelines like, shit, Phil, get in there.
Yeah.
That's when I am going to be taking an entire bottle of bourbon and just sitting down and being like, well, here we go. Buckle up. This is going to suck for the rest of the year. So, and there's so many good, talented weapons around Book that there shouldn't be that kind of a problem. We saw a 2 running back set, which was awesome. This was, of course, before Jafar went out, but he's flopping wide receiver with Jones, which was an awesome look. Really had Louisville confused. I'm hoping that Jameer Smith can sneak into there if there is an extended injury, because I think that is a very unique way for Notre Dame to attack a lot of opposing defenses. And Claypool, we haven't talked about him yet, but he has 94 receiving yards on 5 receptions. However, and this, again, was not picked up by ESPN at all, because it sure as shit looked like a targeting and a half to me, crown on crown. And they're showing him under concussion protocol on the sideline. Nobody's saying a word, so there wasn't an update like, well, we're going to check up on him later. I'm like, I'm legit worried about this guy. He doesn't look like he knows where he is.
He's the guy. Like, can we talk about the fact that he's the weapon on offense? He's currently the guy. You would think ESPN would take a moment to be like, oh shit, here's their big weapon. Let's create another pro Louisville narrative. Oh, are they screwed now? No, they wouldn't. I mean, first and foremost, we're concerned about his health. I mean, what's the final word? I don't even know.
I'm going to have to listen to BK's presser and probably in the conference calls where you'll get more.
But that shouldn't be that shouldn't be, right? ESPN is so quick to be like, oh, this player can't put pressure on his ankle. But the second a player goes down in the concussion protocol, they're just like moving along. Hey, Louisville's still in this game. It's like, what the fuck? I mean, come on.
Yeah, it was particularly weird because Herbie decided to praise Claypool for making something happen, and it was awesome. And
across the field,
he went across the field, and before that, he decided, I'm going to run through 2 DBs. That's a damn mood right there, and that's his style of football. And when he took that hit and he just collapsed, they're like, oh yeah, he ran here and did all this, made something happen. I'm like, did you not see the end of that play where he could barely stand?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm surprised the play wasn't reviewed either. Seeing that in the chat. Obviously, as far as that drive, it didn't do anything bad for Notre Dame. They eventually scored a touchdown on that drive. But man, that just now if that happens and he has a concussion and he has some lingering effects from that, that's a damn problem.
Right.
Going down the road.
You gotta hope that there's nothing. It's not that serious, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, these things need to be accounted for. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And another good point in the chat here from Ryan. ESPN didn't say anything about Jafar's injury. Yes, that's correct. I didn't know. If it wasn't for Twitter, wouldn't have known he was hurt.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Pete Sampson, I would have had no idea that he had a groin injury. But no, nothing.
Yeah, like I said, I mentioned it earlier when we were going over some other games. It was a weird. Everybody was kicking off the week one rust, including ESPN, because everybody seemed to be incredibly off about the entire thing. And look,
almost like no one really was like prepared to be there when they were.
Yeah, look, Herbie's called a lot of games this week alone, and at that booth, Fowler and Herbie, and Fowler's going to go call tennis tomorrow. So I mean, he's going to be dragging. So I'm not expecting perfection from them, but it was weird to have these like major gaps. I mean, it's the stuff that happens when you're in the stand. You're like, oh, I haven't seen him out here in a while. What happened? And I felt like I was in the stands, like I haven't seen Armstrong for the rest of the game. What the hell's going on? And you know, it looked like ESPN was trying with Claypool because they had the shot at the sideline of him being checked out by doctors, but nothing. So,
yeah, I don't know. The overall broadcast tonight really was just overall frustrating. I made this comment earlier as well. There was a point where it's just like so evident that every time Louisville did anything of merit or a success, they were, oh, shit. Oh, look at the first down and the yards they're supposed to gain. And then you get this inside, like it's third down. And they score a touchdown to go up before the half. And I swear to God, Chris Fowler looks over and says, well, you know, like with this Notre Dame, you know, they can take some momentum into the half, being up a touchdown. And Kirk Herbstreit's exact reaction was, huge. I was like, okay, all right, fuck you guys too. This is okay. Fuck you.
Okay, so apparently we're getting some Twitter updates from the chat. Sampson said that BK said on Armstrong, we don't know that it's serious. Said he's not sure if it's his groin or not, so he's getting checked out. So yeah, I have a feeling it won't be until the conference call until we get maybe a little bit more clarity. With this week being so crazy, I don't know when that conference call is going to happen. I assume tomorrow or now today on Tuesday. Yeah, right. And maybe not even until, you know, his next presser, maybe for New Mexico, will we get a little bit more clarity, because with it being a bye week, you know, he's not going to say shit.
Right. So
I'm not expecting too much of an update on that. The other thing we got to talk about was how on drugs this game got. Because
it went cheesing on us.
So all the damn fumbles, including one sequence where there were 3 fumbles on 3 consecutive plays.
The rare triple fumble.
It was because I nearly lost my mind at the half because I was so pissed Book fumbled right after we recovered it. Like, that was a fucking golden opportunity. We could have, after all this bullshit, we could have gone to that full lead, and you fucked it up. How did you do that? And as soon as I'm about to angry tweet that, all of a sudden, Louisville hands the ball back to Notre Dame on a silver platter. Notre Dame gets the touchdown. And that is one thing I am taking back from this, is that Notre Dame, despite how bad they played, managed to get a lead at the half, managed to win comfortably. Now, they're not a great team because great teams cover, and they didn't cover this. They were 1 point shy on it. But they ended up pulling away for a comfortable victory. It was sloppy as hell, but it's one of those things to where, you know, maybe in the first quarter, there was some moments of sheer panic. I was definitely leaning towards that way. But as the game progressed, like, okay, it's going to end up being fine, which typically happens. You know, you'll see good teams stumble in the first half, put it back together, and then manage to make things a little bit better along the way. There was still some sloppiness in the second half I could have done without. Like I said, Book never really seemed, and the offense as a whole never really seemed to put it together. So you got a comfortable victory, an 18-point victory with all that. I mean, look, that's good, that's fine, but it gives you more than enough to be overly concerned for that Georgia game that is looming, because you can't even play remotely close to this, or it's going to be a boat race.
Yep. At this point, you know, confidence is teetering on, you know, lower than before, I think, across the board. You know, I think a lot of our our safe space for us was Ian Book's consistency and his, I guess, surprising performance. But now that he's shook, we all shook. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so it's about them getting back on track, about him reestablishing himself as that consistent, reliable quarterback, and then pasting the floor with our next opponent so that they can actually move into Georgia with that actual momentum. Not just that we won and we did what we're supposed to do and let's hope it goes well. No, they actually want we dominated the motherfucker like we were supposed to. Now let's go in there and upset the world.
Yeah, Phil put up 200 yards of passing on his own. We had the third string QB come in for mop-up duty. That's we don't need winning as hard for New Mexico week.
Exactly.
And I missed something here. Looking back in the chat history, Tyler James had an update on Claypool. Claypool said that he was fine. He said he attributed his little slow exit and barely getting up that it was just a long run and he was tired. I hope that's the case because that hit. He got hit in a scary area. So
I was worried. I just can't be without our equal team. It's very important. It's a very important part of my Saturdays.
Yeah, I'm laughing at this last comment in chat from Strong Main. My girlfriend asked in the third quarter, so you guys aren't very worried. Is this a good thing? Or he said, we're up by 11 going into the fourth. We lived through the 2012 campaign. There's nothing that an 11-point lead can do to move my heart rate.
Yep. Accurate.
Very, very accurate. Yeah. I mean, look, yeah, bottom line, it was sloppy. You can, I mean, honestly, this kind of leaves it's like a bittersweet taste in my mouth going into the bye week. The first bye week, rather, going into New Mexico, because even, if we wax the floor in New Mexico, that's great. That's fine. Nothing's going to put me at ease leading up to Georgia. There's just nothing, not going to happen.
Nope.
I don't think we saw it in this game. We're not going to see anything in New Mexico.
Matter if they put up 100 on New Mexico. I'm still going to be like, we're fucked. We're all fucked.
Yeah. So start your stress drinking now. Start it early. Shane, I think the only other thing we need to talk about is we punt really well.
Yeah.
So much for worrying about special teams on the punting side being a huge issue, because Bradley, man, he went out there the first 3 and out. It's like, I'm going to boot this shit damn near 50, 60 yards. Y'all want to keep up? This is why I got recruited.
Like, it's going to be over there when you guys are ready. So just go get it.
Absolutely, yeah. And Dorr didn't get a chance to really go after any field goals, but he did good on kickoffs. I thought he was going to have one go out of bounds when he was trying to squib kick. But he did some kind of golf shot shit where it just died. And all of a sudden, Louisville's panicking to go cover the football because Notre Dame was right behind him getting ready to recover it.
No, I mean, so the special teams was good. The coverage was a little bit iffy, but, Louisville had one of the better special teams units last season. So, I mean, it's not like they were bad. But yeah, the kicking game was just safe. We didn't have to risk it. No 3 points to win the game shit yet. So we'll see. But punting looked good. Hey, it's not like you got even the one time the ESPN and the crowd thought that Bramblett had shanked it, it went 50 yards anyway. It's like, oh, and he shanked it. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that was really good. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. Whatever happened in the spring, he got over, because now he looks fine. That looks like a solid part of the game, and the hang time on those punts is absolutely insane, because even if the Gunners are not able to beat their blocks, there is so much time for them to finally get down the field. He's going to be damn hard to return punts on. And even the one short punt he had, he's knocking it within the 10-yard line. I'm just like, he's good.
Okay. Yep.
One less thing to worry about, because now we got plenty of stuff to worry about on the offensive side of the ball. So
so it would seem.
All right. Well, I mean, you got any other thoughts, Shane? I know it's late. We're coming up here on an hour.
Just it's not the Cinderella start we were all hoping for. It wasn't fairy tale, but it still can be at the end. So we'll see.
All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us here on the show, joining us live here on twitch.tv/HerLoyalSons. Make sure you follow and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate your support. For the podcast, you can always subscribe to us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you can find your podcasts at. You can also head over to Discord. That is our live chat channel, herloyalsons.com/Discord. As always, you will find us over at herloyalsons.com. Well, folks, let's enjoy the bye week. Go Irish.